So the first question, doctor, we have is there a correlation between family history of suicide and suicidal tendencies? Is there a correlation between family history of suicide and suicidal tendencies?
Okay.
Doctor, can you?
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
When we say family history of suicide, very often this is related to conditions like depression. If so, it can run in families. Just an attempt alone will not run in family. But why did that? But many times we don't know why the person attempted. We can only in retrospect, we can guess that it could have been maybe a mood disorder. And if so, there's a risk of running a family. And also, if somebody has seen or heard about it, like this copycat suicide, that way a person may try to do that in future. So that's the only way it is more risky in the family.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, one commits suicide in helpless situations. Is it considered a crime?
Helpless situation?
Yeah, is it considered a crime?
A crime. Till 2017, Section 309 was in force, which says suicidal attempt is a crime and you can be even arrested. But in 2017, that was repealed. So in India, it is no longer a crime. In a way, it is good because people can voluntarily seek help without feeling victimized. So it is not a crime now anymore in India.
Next question, doctor, is if a friend comes and says that they want to commit suicide, how to stop them from doing it without letting his or her family know?
Yeah, as already Santosh was saying, this is one of the life and death matters where we should not agree to, keep it from the family. You don't have to tell that I'm going to tell, no, I will tell, not like that. But you can try, you can talk to the person, you can encourage the person to seek help, be with the person, see if we can reduce access to any suicidal material, help him. You can write a no suicidal pact with the person, say that, okay, till tomorrow, at least till tomorrow, I will not. Let him write and give. Many other things will help temporarily. But in the long run, it is always helpful to involve his family or loved ones.
Would it be different with what's running in the mind of suicide bombers? Is it altruistic suicide?
Yeah, it'll probably come under the group of altruistic suicide. We really don't know whether they are under compulsion or there's a fatalistic suicide. But let us assume that it's a voluntary, and it could be an altruistic suicide. They want to help a cause, so they are doing it.
Is there a role today that social media plays on mental health for teens and young people?
Certainly, as we already said, the glorification of suicide or the publicizing the details make people think more about it, and this copycat phenomenon can occur. So there is, at least I said, there are at least 2 studies which shows that suicide rates have increased after social media publication of the suicide in detail. So there is a risk when there is publication of social media.
Okay. Did Sushant Singh Rajput commit suicide? I think we already answered that, so I'll skip that question.
Yeah.
Can we tell people with suicidal tendencies that what they think is a sin against God or sin against their religion, sin against their faith?
Uh, we can tell, but that is not the primary thing at that time. Though what you believe may be true, we could discuss that later. But when they are actively suicidal, what they need is someone who's with them and who understands them, and not someone like a judge telling you're right or you're wrong. That's not they need at that time. Later on, maybe we can talk when they are less suicidal. These things can be discussed.
Thank you, doctor. How can I overcome suicidal thoughts which come due to shame, failure in love, failure in life, and think that this life is worthless anymore without visiting a doctor or an elder?
Okay, if a person does not want to visit a doctor or elder, at least visit a friend. Share with that person your feelings. A friend may be in a better position to look at things in a more rational way. Because, as you said last, I was telling another group, that love is blind. In such situations, we cannot think rationally. In fact, one of my colleagues in psychiatry went to the extent of saying falling in love is almost equal to psychosis, madness, because it all has a lot of similarities. The sense a person is not able to think rationally. So at least share with a friend whom you trust. That would help. Don't try to deal with these thoughts yourself, however strong you may feel you are.
There was a very recent article that said that there is a genetic component in suicides or attempted suicides. You said that there is not. Can you please explain? This is from the book Why We Kill Ourselves.
Um, I'm not aware of many studies on that. Only thing we know that when you treat psychiatric patients, we always ask for a history of suicide in the family, because we do not know the cause why the other person committed suicide. It could be a reflection of a mental illness, because 50 to 70% of the suicides are because of depression. And therefore, if it is related to mental illness, then there is likely that it can run in the family in that sense, not just an attempt alone.
As counselors, if we are counseling people and if they commit suicide, will there be an issue with the law?
No, no, we are not responsible for a person's being alive or committing suicide, as much as a doctor is not held responsible if a patient dies. We try our best to help a person. Committing suicide, a person's own choice. Then, having said this, there is a lot of cases book called abetment of suicide. I was discussing with a lawyer and a judge about this. Said that actually when they come to a court, these things don't stand, because just because you are with a person, that doesn't mean you are abetted a person. If you look at the abetment of suicide, the law and the explanation in detail, it should have been something that you encourage the person in some way or the other to commit suicide. Then only it is called abetment. But you are actually discouraging by counseling, and that was not helpful. That person committed suicide of his own choice. You will not be held responsible for that.
Thanks for adding clarity, doctor. Next question is, how can we give hope to a friend who is depressed because her only 6-year-old son died?
Yes, this is like dealing with grief, of any normal grief. Helping the person talk about the loved one as much as possible. When we meet the person, ask about the loved one who passed away. Let the person talk more and more. The way in is the way out. So many times people say, no, don't open that topic. No, that is a bad advice. Do open the topic. Give a chance for the person to express. At that time, a person may cry, weep. They're all very good of expression of grief. That is the way a person can be helped to come out. It's not by just giving advice or saying a philosophical statement or even religious statements. They are useful, but that's not the one that's going to help the person. What will help is helping the person to express themselves.
The continuation, the same persons. Can we remind a suicidal person to think of their children, parents, or loved ones, or is it better not to?
Certainly, that is helpful.
Right.
Not only about their own relatives, their social ties, especially I found it very useful, a suicidal person asking them about their children. People are come when we are counseling with intense suicidal ideas. When I ask them, how many children do you have? Just that one question make them break down and cry. So that usually, then they'll say, I am living only for my children. Statements like that. So any hope is better than no hope. So talking about other relatives, very good.
Thank you. My friend who attempted suicide has an invalid husband. The past 15 years or so, she says only to scare her husband she attempted suicide.
Scare her husband, is it?
Yeah, to scare her
Frightened
husband.
husband.
Frighten her husband, yeah.
Well, if you are counseling that person, you must say this is not, it's a dangerous thing to do. One thing, even non-lethal attempts can be lethal. One will never know. Secondly, this, I don't know why the person wants to frighten the husband like this. There are better methods of dealing with the person. Or if the person doesn't know, we can talk to somebody else. How can he deal with this rather than resorting to these kind of dangerous methods, foolish methods.
Oh, okay, now questions are really pouring in. um, uh, Doctor, you mentioned about biochemical change in the brain, which has caused suicide. I just want to know whether that can be hereditary.
Yes, it can be hereditary, and very often it is hereditary. But that doesn't mean that everyone will get it. Even if both parents have the problem, the chance of the children getting it is less than 50%, even if both parents have it. But there is a higher risk than the normal population. And if that happens, the person should be aware that such a thing can come and can seek help early.
Does alcohol and other drug abuse increase the risk of suicide?
Certainly. One of the risk factors for suicide is alcohol and drug abuse. Many people do attempt suicide.
I'm working in tribal health. Is there any kind of suicide tendencies among them and reasons for it?
Yes, tribal or otherwise, suicide is seen in almost all people groups. We hear about Bhutan, a country which prides itself about happiness index. That's the only country which talks about happiness index and everybody is happy there. Suicide rate is not that less in that country. So everywhere, suicide is there, even tribal people. But the reasons may be slightly different from what the others say.
How can a vulnerable suicidal person recognize that someone is abetting him or her to suicide after one is totally drowned in the thought of dying by suicide?
That question is not very clear to me. Somebody is abetting suicide.
Yeah, I think the question is how does a person who is totally drowned with the thoughts of suicide identify if someone is abetting him or her to commit suicide?
That question is still not very clear to me. I don't know how anybody will ever voluntarily, make a person commit suicide. That would be a very abnormal person. But a psychopathic person will do that. Right. But unknowingly, how will they abet? Yes, maybe by irritating that person further or making the cause of his distress worse. In that way, maybe you can say the person abetting. Otherwise, that question itself is not very, very clear to me.
Okay, doctor. Yeah. During this pandemic lockdown, it is getting common for everyone to get into depression due to not traveling to places. Please advise on how to keep your hopes high.
Not necessarily. Pandemic is there and our lifestyle has changed, but we must learn to adopt a newer lifestyle. We discover new things. In fact, I think most of us have discovered how to use Zoom now, which we probably have never used before. That's one way of keeping in touch with people, attending seminars like this. So there are various things. Maybe this is an opportunity for you to read more, update your knowledge, talk to people more. So when you are in a different situation, you must learn how we can make use of that rather than thinking of it as a restriction. So a lot depends on your attitude towards it. So change your negative attitude to a positive attitude. That's the way to deal with this.
So I think related to that, Zoom, nowadays we cannot physically sit across and counsel. It is more of virtual meetings.
Yeah.
In case the counselee records, and can this recording be held against the counselor in case the counselee commits suicide?
As I said already, a counselor is no guarantee for a person not committing suicide. A counselor is like a doctor. He or she tries his best to help a person, but if a person commits suicide, that is his choice. So he will not be held responsible.
Doctor, thank you very much. I know you have given us time till 6:15.
No, I still have time. If you want, I can.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
We have a lot of questions. So,
Sure.
A person with frequent suicidal attempts to threaten people, do they give up that feeling and lead a normal life? A person with frequent suicidal attempts to threaten people.
Yeah, usually this problem of a person's personality or a character. This is the person who usually learns to get things by getting others' attention. One of them is this suicidal attempt, and so people pay attention. So we need to look at this little impassionately. If you want to help the person needs to learn that this is not the way to get on with life. Therefore, because of the attempt, they should not be given any special privileges. Many times people get more special attention privileges by this. When they don't get that, then they will realize or learn that this is not going to help much. So the consequences of these attempts we need to modify. Don't give any extra attention, more privileges because of this. That is one way to help these kind of people.
Is it something like compared to when we talk about parenting, we talk about children throwing tantrums?
Exactly. So these are the people who are not grown out of their childish behavior. Right. They still want, like tantrum, get attention from others.
I missed the last lecture. Is there any evidence about lack of vitamin D and B12 to be one of the reasons behind depression?
I'm not aware of any studies like that. It's good to take those things, good for the body, but whether that will cause depression, I'm not aware.
There's a common belief among Christians and religious groups that suicide is related to spiritual warfare and needs deliverance. Oh, okay, like deliverance from the evil. If there is a case like that, how to deal with it without hurting the feelings of the body or the belief of the family?
Yeah. One thing here is not to look at it flippantly. If you think this is a spiritual problem, one should be clear that it is likely to be a spiritual problem. There should be some evidence to say, not blindly call everything as a spiritual problem. There could be a spiritual problem. And if so, then you go ahead for prayer or deliverance, but not every case of suicide. That can cause harm. Blindly think that every suicidal thought, suicidal attempt is a spiritual problem. There may be a spiritual component in that, but we also need to see the other causes, the other ways of helping.
Is there any study done to show how religion can play a role more effectively among those who are attempting suicide, is there a biblical approach or versus any other religious groups have done studies to show that they help?
I'm not in the academics for many years, so I don't know of any specific studies, but I know that there are studies on religion and psychiatric illness, and it's been shown that many times people with a religious faith in God, they have been more stable psychiatrically than those without a faith. So the same could be applied to suicide as well.
Okay, I think history of suicide in family, I think we have addressed results of demonic influence, how to recognize and handle this. Can suicide be a result of demonic influence? How to recognize and handle this?
You need a spirit of discernment for that, as I already said. Everything should not be considered as a demonic attack. But if you feel it is a spiritual problem, yes, you pray with the person, but always do it with love, not frightening the person or condemning the person. Pray with love and asking God to help this person. I feel there are many times people misunderstand, thinking that they have the power to drive out all the spiritual forces. No, we need to depend on God to do that. With a sense of humility, we have to do that.
Why do people commit suicide as a family? What happens in their mind?
Yes, this is called suicidal. This has happened in many groups. People together because of either their belief or sometimes as a family. Very often what we hear nowadays in India is because of economic stress, and they feel they cannot survive. Not that not always everyone agrees for the suicide. Maybe one or two may agree, the others are in fact killed to join the pact. So very often what we hear is the economic stress, but could be religious reasons also. In some countries, people have taken poison together.
How can you please elaborate about the biochem changes leading to suicide?
Yeah, as I already said, the serotonin, noradrenaline, and dopamine in the limbic system in the brain, if they are at the normal levels, then we are able to function, our motivation, all this goes on normally. When there is a decrease in that, that leads to depression. This is the biochemical change that happens in the brain. This happens not in all, in some vulnerable people, especially those with a family history of depression, or in many ways their brain is vulnerable. They develop depression and they get the suicidal ideas. They can be easily treated with medicines. I repeat again, this can be easily treated with good success, 100% success in many cases, with medicines, antidepressants, or electroconvulsive therapy. So that is the good thing about it. If you can identify these people, they can be treated.
Thank you. How does one deal with the aspect of privacy? If I come across someone with a tendency and do not have the capacity to help, when do I inform a counselor or take it to somebody else? Is that a breach of trust?
As Santosh already mentioned, when it comes to life and death matter, the privacy takes a backseat. The primary importance is to save the life of the person. So even at the risk of, even at breaking privacy, we need to save a life. So in many life and death situations, the ordinary rules don't apply. We have to give priority for what is the most important thing.
Any books on counseling? I think this question is coming from a counselor. Can we any books you recommend about how to counsel people who are into suicide?
Maybe you can recommend. I don't. I know only the psychiatric books.
We could set that up. How do you identify suicidal attempts among school-going children?
Suicidal attempts
or among school-going children?
Is it attempts or the risk? I don't know.
I think it probably is a risk attempt. I doubt. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Again, Santosh had said that already. There's a sudden change in their behavior. Suddenly they become very gloomy, or look at their notebooks, what they write, what they scribble. Anything, the picture drawings and so on, anything to suggest suicide or hopelessness. These are some of the things to recognize. And also have a look at their friends. What kind of friends do they have? What are their activities? So I think parents need to keep a constant watch at the children every day on a daily basis about their behavior. Any change in behavior, we should be concerned.
Doctor,
It doesn't suddenly happen suddenly like that.
Question for you, doctor. Is it true that suicide is common among psychologists and psychiatrists?
Well, it is true that among the doctors, suicide is highest among anesthetists and psychiatrists. Well, nobody knows the exact reason. One of the reasons, maybe there are people who take up psychiatry already, they have had probably some psychiatric problem earlier, so they were interested in psychiatry, they took up psychiatry. That could be one of the reasons. And we don't know the reasons, but it's true among psychiatrists and anesthetists. Anesthetists, again, because of easy availability of lethal medicines with them.
Okay. Why are SSRIs freely prescribed by doctors from other fields without a proper psychological and psychiatric evaluation?
Well, SSRIs are fairly safe, unlike the earlier antidepressants. Therefore, if you suspect any depression, it's maybe worth giving SSRI. It's fairly safe. And also, these SSRIs are used not only for depression or psychiatric conditions, there are other conditions also it's used for. Even, for example, a migraine headache. For that also is useful. Chronic pain, chronic neuralgic pain. Sometimes antidepressants are useful. So these are reasons why other doctors use. So it's fairly safe.
Okay. As employees are losing jobs suddenly because of COVID situation, the employees threaten they might commit suicide to the managers.
Yeah, this again is an attention-seeking behavior. People do that, but so these kind of threats, like another person say, if you don't marry me, I will commit suicide. So these kind of threats are attention-seeking threats. So there is a limit to how much a person can go. So we need to identify some of these things which are obviously attention-seeking threats and deal with the problem appropriately.
What is the neurochemistry of suicide? Why some people commit suicide early in the morning?
Yes. When you talked about depression, last week I said, people are more depressed in the mornings than in the afternoons and evenings. That's one of the reasons why suicide is more common early in the morning or in the mornings hours than in the evening. Yeah. In this connection, I must also say, those who are on treatment for depression, the early stages of treatment also they are under risk. One of the reasons because in the beginning of depression, they are so depressed that they don't even have the energy to commit suicide. And the depression begins to improve. They're little better, then they think of suicide. So there's a risk of suicide increase in the early, maybe the first week of treatment with antidepressants. So that we must be aware.
Okay. Yeah,
slightly increased risk is there.
Yeah, that's very informative, doctor. I get depressive and have unhealthy suicidal thoughts when hormonal during the period cycle. Why is it so, and can it be overcome? Can I overcome it?
Yeah, many women, most women have mood changes before the periods or during their periods. This is, as it's already said, because of the hormonal changes. That one has to accept and be prepared for it in the beginning. Oh, this is the time I feel like this. So it won't last long. They must know, because every time it happens. So that is one hope that this will pass away. So let them not take any decisions during this time. Decide voluntarily, no, I will not take any new decisions at this time. I'll wait for a few days till I'm better. That is one way. Another thing is to share with the husband. Let him also be understanding. Many husbands are not aware of this, so they should talk. This is how it is. So please be understanding. That's what they need to do.
Dr. Sushil, you said about creating awareness. Will this not increase the risk of suicide?
No, it does not increase risk of suicide. As I already said, uh, being aware, for example, now all of us who are attending this seminar, do we think the risk is increased? Certainly not. In fact, being aware will reduce the risk. So knowing about suicide does not make a person commit suicide.
We have heard that people who commit suicide go to hell. What is its validation?
Yeah, I can only tell you my personal belief on this. Uh, it is not considered as one of the unpardonable sins in the Bible. As a Christian, I say, if God forgives every sin that we have committed, suicide is, if it is suicide considered as a sin, that's also one of the sins that God is willing to forgive. So when we get forgiveness of God, not only for the sins that I have committed before, even that I may commit. The Bible says, little in the 1 John, little children, I write to you that you do not sin. But if you do sin, there is Lord Jesus, the blood of Jesus washes you away, clean from your sins. That means there's a possibility to fall in sin. Even that God takes care. So my personal belief is that God understands us, each of us, much more than we understand or psychiatrists understand people's motivation. If we ourselves are sympathetic to a person who has suicidal thoughts, how much more will God be? This is my personal belief. So I believe God will forgive even in my distress. I have done this. If God can forgive a murderer, how much more will He forgive a person who kills himself?
Thanks. That's very helpful, doctor. What if you're suicidal because of illness that deeply impacts your quality of life? For example, partial blindness, deafness, or life-threatening diseases. How do we work around that?
Yeah, we know so many people who are blind, partially or fully, or deaf, or handicapped, who have done excellently well in life with their available faculties. So if something is taken away from us, doesn't mean the whole life is lost. So the way we look at life, that is important. Some years ago, one person came to me saying that, doctor, I have lost everything. That is what he said. He repeatedly said, doctor, I have lost everything. What happened was there was a road widening and a bulldozer came and raised his shop, roadside shop, illegally constructed, and he lost everything. So I listened to him. Then I asked him, do you have a family? Do you have a wife and children? Yes. Do you have a house? Yes. So I talked to him like, then I said, but you said you lost everything, but you have all these things. So the way you look at it, if you think that I lost everything, then you feel very depressed. But you look at things that you have, like the old hymn says, count your blessings, name them one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done. That is the attitude we need to take.
Thank you, doctor. Thanks for that. This is again a COVID-19 situation related question about a person sitting at home alone and his wife and children are in some other place and the person does not have work, no transportation, family issues. How can friends help? How can we help him overcome that?
Yeah, that is difficult sometimes when you're alone and nobody's there. But thankfully, we have social media like Zoom, WhatsApp, emails. This is the time we need to make use of these things, contact each other. So keep channels of communication open. Unlike in the past, when a person far away also we can contact now. So keep the channels of communication open. That is the important thing in this time.
Do long use of antidepressants lead to suicidal thoughts? And another question related to that is sometimes antidepressants become abusive?
Fortunately, antidepressants are not addictive. So you can use for months or years and you can still stop afterwards. Antidepressants leading to suicide, I said earlier, the first week usually, the severe depression, when it begins to get better, the initial stage, first week or so, 10 days, person's suicidal risk is slightly more. But after that, it does not increase the suicidal risk. It does not.
Okay, I think we are coming to the end of the questions. Um, Yeah, what can be said of what? Sorry, I will read it and then ask you the question. Someone in the age group of 20 to 30 who feels redundant in life and thinks it wouldn't affect anyone if they didn't exist as a whole. What would you tell a person who does not have a purpose in life? I think that's the question,
Yeah.
especially young person.
One thing is to ask, question this belief, this wrong belief. Is it true? Let the person say why he thinks so. And then also can ask the person is challenge those thoughts, whatever it says, because we know that nobody is useless. We are all related to each other, and we believe that God has a purpose and value for each person, which another person may not be able to fulfill. So highlight these things to person. Best thing is to help the person answer these questions, challenge this wrong belief, so that he'll be able to correct those beliefs. And when his beliefs are corrected, his mood also will change. That is the basis of cognitive therapy.
How do the levels of hormones which lead to depression decrease gradually in a mental health person? Men, mental health.
It's
Mentally
not a
healthy person, sorry. Mentally healthy person.
healthy person. No, it's not, it doesn't decrease gradually, but it can decrease sometime in some stages of life, especially in older age, in vulnerable people, not in all. In fact, most people live normally, the hormones are normal, even in old age. In some vulnerable people, especially if they have a family history of depression, or if they have social situations of social isolation and they don't have any purposeful thing to do. So these things, these times, the hormones, the chemicals can come down. It's not coming down gradually, it comes down suddenly down. And that's time we call it as a depression, and that can be treated with medicines.
I think this question is, you mentioned about care. Can you repeat it a bit more about do's and don'ts when you're caring for a person who is about to commit suicide?
Yeah, I think maybe Santosh can answer that better. He had a slide on that.
Santosh,
Yeah,
you want
anyway.
to step in? For...
Okay, anyway, I can tell.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, Santosh, saying or?
Yeah, like we went through the do's and don'ts. There's preventive and then there's curative. This question points to the curative already because obviously prevention has not taken place in the individual's growing years, at least until the present time. So what you can do is we've given you a list. We'll probably try and just email the text of all that to you of what you can say and what you cannot say. But the individual needs to know that there is at least one person who cares for them and who's willing to see through what they're going through, try and listen and understand them. You may or may not have a solution, but they need to know that, well, someone is trying to see this from my point of view. And while you are caring for them, make sure that you do point out to professional help because there's only so much that you can do. As a friend, as a family, or a loved person, you're always going to be biased and you can't really be objective. And you're not really equipped enough with skills to take care of this. So you then slip into a supporting role, but then leave the actual work to the professional and make sure that your loved one goes to the professional and keeps the appointments and watch out for their progress.
Thank you, Santosh. Doctor, I think we'll take this as one last question for you again about helping with people who are, when we are talking to people who have suicidal tendencies. I think you answered this, but again, just for information, can talking to the person who has suicidal thoughts about their family or loved ones and how they will miss them, will that help?
Yes, it will help to heighten the awareness that they are not useless or redundant, that they have these ties. So all these things are helpful. All these things will increase hope in a person who feels hopeless. So it's good to talk about that, to increase the awareness about their ties with the other people in the family or in the society.
Thank you, Doctor. Doctor, we just want to say thank you very much for giving your time and thank you for taking us through these sessions. It's been really helpful and it's been really encouraging for all of us, at least for us to at least understand how it works so that, we can always be there to help people and reach out to them. Santosh, you want to do any concluding remarks?
No, thank you everyone for being here. Watch out for our emails. We'll let you know about the future programs and the uploading of the video links so that you can run over them once again or share with some friends who would have missed it. So until you get an email for our next conversation, please make sure that you stay safe.
Yeah, thank you all very much. Please send in your feedback. Some of you have been asking about feedback. Send it to hello@fotf.in from the very email ID from where you received the emails about the login and stuff like that. We will mail you. And once again, Dr. Sushil, thank you very much. And it's been a really good time of learning. Thank you for your time. And I know it's precious on a Sunday evening. Thank you for being with us and really appreciate you giving this time for us. Thank you. Thank you all, and we will be in touch with you. Please let us know at hello@fotf.in how this program has helped you. Thank you very much, and God bless you all. Thank you.